Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all. I'm Deborah Manyiraho from Busitema University in Uganda. I'm presenting this research on SESEMAT in service pedagogical strategies and students' achievement in science at ordinary level in Tororo SESEMAT region in Uganda. We may all know that technology is application of basic scientific knowledge which we live with. And for learners, this knowledge is conceptualized a little bit more while they are still at ordinary level. Since science plays a key role in technology and development, countries have put a lot of emphasis on the teaching and learning of science. However, the achievement is still low for most students in many countries. This has seen a lot of innovation being put in place by different countries. For example, Japan enacted a science education promotion law to regulate the teaching and learning standards of science. In Malaysia, lesson study is being implemented at school level. On the African continent, we have a platform for strengthening mathematics and science education in Western, Eastern, Southern, and Central Africa. That is the SEMASI-WEXA. The government of Uganda has also put in place a lot of strategies. For example, construction of science laboratories in almost all secondary schools, enhancement of salary for science teachers, and many others. SESEMAT is also an intervention which was started by the Ministry of Education and Sports in 2005 in conjunction with the Japan International Cooperation Agency to see to it that teachers' classroom instruction strategies are improved for learner achievement. The major strategies under SESEMAT include in-service trainings for teachers of science and mathematics, lesson observation and lesson study, which gives support to the science teacher in the classroom, and the SESEMAT Activity Regional-Based Initiative, a sub-initiative, which for Tororo region is assessment by testing. During this initiative, learners sit a pre-test while they are still in Senior 2. The teachers mark and identify areas of weakness. They conduct remedial lessons, and at Senior 3, the learners sit a post-test. The initiative has been extended also at school level, meaning that for schools implementing it, learners are taken through this process for every test that they do. However, UNEB reports indicate just a slight improvement by students in science, and this translates in few of them doing science combinations at advanced level. When the results are compared with other subjects, science subjects are still lagging behind, hence the motivation of this study. Therefore, the objectives of the study were to establish the level of implementation of SESEMAT in service pedagogical strategies in the region. 2, to assess the level of student achievement in science in the region. And 3, to establish the mediation effect of teachers' classroom practice on the relationship between implementation of SESEMAT strategies and student achievement. The independent variable of the study was implementation of SESEMAT in service pedagogical strategies, while the dependent variable was student achievement. This study conceptualized student achievement in terms of academic performance, attitude change, acquisition of skills, and application of science in daily life. Teachers' classroom practice came in as a mediating variable on the relationship between the independent and the dependent variables. The study employed a cross-sectional survey design with both quantitative and qualitative approaches. The population comprised head teachers, teachers of science and mathematics, and students of Senior 4 in Tororo and of Taleja districts. Those are the districts which form the region. The study population was 9,184, and using Krejishi and Morgan's table, a sample of 368 participants was arrived at. The schools were first stratified according to different categories, that is geographical location, ownership, source of funding, the sex of the students, and whether they are day or boarding. A random selection was done to ensure that each category was represented. Senior 4 students were selected randomly from each school to fill a questionnaire that had 3 sections. Section A was for demographic information. Section B had closed-ended questions that were scored on a 5 Likert scale. And Section C had open-ended questions. Senior 4 students participated in the study because they are almost at the end of the cycle and have gone through both the pre-test and post-test of the sub and all the other strategies. Head teachers were selected purposively from each school to fill a questionnaire that was specifically designed for them. 4 groups of science teachers participated in focus group discussions to provide information that would supplement data from students. The questionnaires that had been fully filled were sorted, coded. Quantitative data was entered in SPSS version 25, while qualitative data was organized according to objectives for analysis. For objective 1 and 2, the scores were aggregated as shown in the slide. A score of 6 to 13 meant that is low implementation, and so on and so forth. While for achievement of students also, 10 to 22 meant low, 23 to 35 meant moderate, and 36 to 50 meant high. So descriptive statistics, frequency, mean, standard deviation, and percentages were used to determine the levels of implementation and levels of student achievement. For objective 3, correlation coefficients were determined, followed by running multiple linear regression analysis model 4 in SPSS using the process plugin by Hayes. Demographic information obtained from schools showed that the participants were nearly evenly distributed across the different categories of the schools. For the level of implementation was moderate, with scores ranging from 10 to 30. The mean was 19.88 and standard deviation 4.49. Implementation of SESEMAT strategies was evidenced by regular insets, regional sub-exams, lesson observation, and ability of teachers to conduct simple experiments to promote practical teaching and learning. However, the moderate level implies that there is still more to be done. The results indicated that implementation was high in Tororo municipality, as you can see, compared to other regions. Implementation was also high in urban schools generally compared to the rural, then in boarding schools compared to the day, and in girls' schools compared to the other categories of the schools. Responses from head teachers varied, with some head teachers saying that if implementation was done in their schools, the syllabus would not be completed, while other head teachers said that implementation of SESEMAT had helped learners improve their interest in science subjects. SUB was the most widely implemented activity, while lesson study was the least implemented. For the level of student achievement, the scores ranged from 19 to 49 with mean of 37.96 and standard deviation of 5.70. This is a high level of achievement. Learners' achievement was mainly in terms of attitude change, acquisition of skills, and application of science in daily life. However, the academic scores are still low, and about 50% of the participants confessed that their performance in science is still poor. The teachers generally perceived learner achievement to be improving by comparing the current students they are teaching with the previous cohorts and looking at how learners enjoyed hands-on and mind-on activities as emphasized by SESEMAT. In-service strategies have equipped teachers with good teaching methods and with skills to demystify the abstract nature of science subjects so that they are interesting to the learners. To establish the mediation effect of teachers' classroom practices on the relationship between implementation of SESEMAT strategies and student achievement, correlation coefficients along each path were determined and found to be statistically significant. So these are the paths after running the multiple linear regression model. The results are as shown. So for path A, this is path A, the beta value is 0.53. Path B, the beta value is 0.52, and this is path C. However, the effect of implementation of the strategies, as you can see, shrinks from 0.42 to 0.15 when teachers' classroom practice is included in this model here. This shows that teachers' classroom practice was a strong positive mediator of the relationship between implementation of SESEMAT strategies and student achievement. However, the correlation coefficients were weak and the shrinking effect does not go to zero, which means that student achievement does not only depend on implementation of SESEMAT strategies. There are other factors which may be school-related, teacher-related, or student-related. For example, socioeconomic status, parental involvement, school environment, and so on, which also affect student achievement. In conclusion, SESEMAT in-service pedagogical strategies are moderately being implemented in schools in Tororo region. The teachers strive to attend insets and implement the SAB in their schools. Secondly, student achievement is high and mainly is in terms of improved attitude and application in daily life. Academic scores are still low, which means that stakeholders need to devise other means to improve the scores. Teachers' classroom practices play a central role in student achievement by strongly mediating the relationship between implementation of SESEMAT strategies and student achievement. The study therefore recommends that organization and stakeholders need to increase the monitoring of the program if the aim is to be achieved. Secondly, schools should emphasize good teaching methods. Science teachers in the region should use interactive methods to enable learners achieve more in science. Finally, the region should emphasize strategies that enhance teachers' classroom practice, especially lesson observation and lesson study, which provides support to the teachers in the classroom. Thank you for listening to me. I remain Deborah Manyiraho from Busitema University.